ownership of the government as it failed to pay its arrears under different headings, including the license renewal fee and Rural Telecommunication Development Fund, among others. Now, prior to this, the government had frozen the assets of the company and restricted transfer of assets and shares. Good evening, I am Prarambha Dahal. Let's begin with the main stories. Three major parties reach a consensus on recommending the Chief Justice through the meeting of the Constitutional Council. Discuss on bills related to transitional justice. License of Smart Telecom scrapped by the Nepal Telecommunications Authority after the entity failed to pay 30 billion rupees for renewal and fines. Companies soon to come under government ownership. Death toll nears 100 in Sudan clashes that enter the third day. Sudanese army calls on rapid support forces to defect and join its ranks. And Pakistan aim to secure an unassailable 3-0 lead against New Zealand in the third 2020 International of the 5-match series. Match slated to begin at 9:45 p.m. Nepal time. Top brass leaders of three of the ruling parties, including Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal, Speaker of the House of Representatives, and Nepali Congress President Sherbahadur Dewa, have agreed to hold a meeting of the Constitutional Council to recommend a nominee for the vacant post of Chief Justice. The meeting between the leaders was held today at the residence of main opposition CPI-ML's chairperson KP Sharma Oli in Balkot. The leaders, sources say, also delved on the bill related to transitional justice. Premier Dahal, along with Speaker Devraj Khimire and Nepali Congress President Dewa, had reached Oli's residence in a bid to find consensus on the bills that are to be tabled at the Parliament. CPI-ML Chair KP Sharma Oli has been resting at his home with a viral fever. At the meeting, Premier Dahal had emphasized on the need to endorse the Constitutional Council bill to pave way for the appointment of the Chief Justice. The leaders had urged Oli for support with the Transitional Justice Bill. The meeting was also attended by Chief Whip and Whips of all three parties. Rashtriya Prajatantra Party chairperson Rajendra Lingden has said that a bill should be introduced with the objective of addressing the plight of the public who had suffered more than the state and the agitating groups during the armed conflict period. Lingden, who had reached Taplejung for party-related work, said that the public had suffered the most during the insurgency era. He added that the draft of the bill had failed to address the plight of the public and stressed on paying attention to this aspect. Lingden also alleged the current ruling coalition of being a group of self-serving entities and said that it would not be sustained for a long period of time. The government has started the process to scrap the license of telecommunications provider Smart Telecom and bring its assets under the government control. The board meeting of Nepal Telecommunications Authority has given directive to cancel the license of Smart Telecom and evaluate its assets. After the assets are evaluated, they will be sold through the process of auction. The license was cancelled after the management of Smart Telecom failed to pay its arrears of 30 billion rupees, including license renewal fee and fine. After Smart Telecom was financially broke, it had halted its services without any announcement. Nepal Telecommunications Authority has given directive to initiate process to hand over Smart Telecom without halting its services. After the authority received complaints that the service was not being provided even after recharging, the regulating body had started investigations. Smart Telecom is operated by 20% Nepali and 80% foreign investment. The Commission for the Investigation of Abuse of Authority (CIAA) has filed a corruption case against 9 individuals, including the Executive Director of Security Printing Center, Bikal Paudel, citing irregularities in procurement of security printing press. The Commission has filed a corruption case against the accused, demanding a total of 2.75 billion rupees in fine. A separate amount has been demanded from each accused individual. Along with the Executive Director of Security Printing Center, Bikal Paudel, the case has been filed against CDE, Navin Kumar Pokhrel, Associate Director, Ramesh Prasad Pokhrel, Department Officer Mani Kaman Maharjan, former Account Officer Ram Bahadur Buda, Department Officer Siri Supadhyaya, Executive Director of Engineering Marketing Concern Private Limited, Rohit Man Pradhan, Director of MEPTEC Building Services, Bhuvan Maharjan, and Executive Director Mitralal Gurau of consultant company Bastu Shilpa Associate. The spokesperson of the CIAA, Vola Dahal, in a press release stated that a case has been filed against the accused at the special court after the security printing center was found involved in irregularities while procuring power system in security printing press and press rice fuel storage tank. The accusation paper of the CIA mentions that an unusual amount had been projected and approved for the procurement, low-quality products were accepted against the agreement, and higher amount was received for operation of the structure and procurement charges. Prior to this, Executive Director Podal had been dragged into the controversy regarding the leaked audio of former Minister Gokul Baskota demanding 700 million rupees. The Public Accounts Committee under the House of Representatives had recommended the CIAA to investigate the irregularities in the procurement of security printing press and take required actions against Podal. However, he was appointed the Executive Director of the Security Printing Center for the second time in May-June last year before the recommendation reached a conclusion. Basanta KC, an armed police force personnel, has committed suicide by shooting himself in Tulasipur jail of Dang. According to the District Police Office Dang, KC shot himself with an SLR while on duty last night. According to preliminary police investigations, KC shot himself because of family-related disputes. KC, who committed suicide, is a permanent resident of Tulasipur. Two youths have died after a truck hit a motorcycle in Dang again. The truck hit the motorcycle at Khaira of Ghorai Sub-Metropolis, Ward number 11. According to Dang DSP Rajan Gautam, the deceased have been identified as 26-year-old Sandesh Basnet and 17-year-old Gopal Vishwakarma. Police have said that the truck had hit the motorcycle while trying to overtake the two-wheeler. Police have held two individuals for investigation into Rashtriya Swatantra Party chairperson Ravi Lamichhane's vehicle driver Dilbahadur Thapa's fall from the roof of a house. According to District Police Office Chitwan, driver of the vehicle of the party's General Secretary Mukul Dhakal and camera person Kushal Rai have been held for investigation. Thapa had fallen from the house of Lamichhane in Bharatpur, Ward number 11 at around 4 a.m. this morning. Thapa, who was seriously injured in the incident, is undergoing treatment in Bharatpur. It is now time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
The question is, why have suggestions pointed out by the Auditor General's office not been implemented? Your options are A, the government irresponsibility, B, ambiguous policy, and C, lack of monitoring. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Time now for the international news. Explosions rocked the Sudanese capital Khartoum on Monday as fighting between the Sudanese army and paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces RSF raged for the third day. United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken today joined regional efforts to pressure the warring sides to end the fighting and return to talks as the civilian death toll rose to 97. Mahbub Malim, former executive secretary of the regional bloc Intergovernmental Authority on Development, has said the warring parties in Sudan have a responsibility to find a way for regional leaders to arrive in Khartoum amid the fighting. The Kenyan government had said overnight Kenya's President William Ruto, South Sudan's President Salva Kiir, and Djibouti's President Ismail Omar Guelleh will arrive in the Khartoum at the earliest possible time. Yesterday, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development called on extraordinary summit of the heads of state and government in East Africa. Russian President Vladimir Putin has met with China's defense minister, underscoring Beijing's strengthening engagement with Moscow, with which it has largely aligned its foreign policy in an attempt to diminish the influence of the United States and other Western democracies. President Putin and Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu met with Chinese Defense Minister Li Shangfu yesterday, less than a month after Chinese leader Xi Jinping held a three-day state visit to Moscow. China has refused to criticize Russia's military actions in Ukraine and blames the US and NATO for provoking Moscow. But China's foreign minister said last week that China would not be helping Russia with weapons, as the US and other Western allies have feared. Officially, China remains neutral in the Ukraine conflict. However, Xi's trip emphasized how China is increasingly becoming the senior partner in the relationship, as it provides Russia with political cover and an economic lifeline during the Ukraine conflict. In comments opening the meeting, Putin praised the general development of Russia-China relations. Japanese Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi has said that foreign ministers of the Group of 7 advanced economies agreed Russia must withdraw all troops from Ukraine without any conditions. The ministers also agreed to continue sanctions against Russia and support to Ukraine, added Hayashi, who briefed reporters at the Group of 7 or G7 foreign ministers meeting held in Japan. In addition, concerns about what the G7 ministers see as China's increasingly aggressive stance on Taiwan and more broadly in the Indo-Pacific region have been in sharp focus during their 3 days of talks in the Japanese resort town of Karuizawa. The G7 ministers are keen to demonstrate a united front, especially after recent comments by French President Emmanuel Macron, which were perceived in some Western capitals as too weak towards China and sparked a backlash. Now, EU spokesperson has said unilateral action on trade by European Union member states is not possible under EU trade policy after several countries announced bans on grain and other food imports from Ukraine to protect their local agricultural sectors. After Russia's invasion blocked some Black Sea ports, large quantities of Ukrainian grain, which is cheaper than that produced in the European Union, ended up staying in Central European states due to logistical bottlenecks, hitting prices and sales for local farmers. Poland and Hungary announced bans on some imports from Ukraine on Saturday. Slovakia said on Monday it would do the same, and other countries in Central and Eastern Europe said they were also considering the action. The Commission said it was working on a second package of support for farmers affected in addition to a first amount of 56.3 million euros announced last month. It is now time for the sports news.
Sports news.
The third 2020 international match between Pakistan and New Zealand is slated for this evening. Host Pakistan, who won the first 2 matches, will be aiming to secure the series with an unassailable 3-0 lead in the 5-match series by winning tonight. That is all for the moment. Our next English bulletin is at 10:30 p.m. Thank you for staying with us. Goodbye for now.